welcome to the 757 Spy Flight over on YouTube. I guess if I could be sitting any place that I could, this would be one of those places. Hi, I'm Dave. I do the Spy Flight over on Twitch. One of the things you'll always know is I seem to have a beach shirt on because every day should be, like a day at the beach or something. But one of my favorite places that I've never been is, it's this place right here. This is the Sunset Bar, and this is Maho Beach. And we are over here at Princess Juliana Airport. So kind of come down here. There's the dance floor, and here is the famous sign at Princess Juliana Airport that says, hey, there are big jets here, and if you stand too close behind the jet engine, you're going to get blown over. One of the things is if you've ever been over to the Spy Flight, you know that this is one of our favorite places to go and do group flights and stuff. Here is runway 10, and we got a big old fuel farm out here, kind of right in the middle of the airport. Lots of little executive jets coming down. The terminal is really nice. Now, this is actually a pay-where airport. They got 4 jetways out here, and actually the terminal itself is nicely modeled. But I hardly ever bring a big jet over here. Instead, most of the time, I like flying this little guy here. This is the de Havilland Twin Otter, and it's all painted up in the livery of Windward Airlines, a real-world airline here at Princess Juliana Airport. And they do fly this airplane, the de Havilland Twin Otter. They also fly the Islander, which is a really popular airplane that is here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I haven't gotten the Islander yet, but I'm really getting close to wanting to pick up the Islander for this because they fly this. They used to fly a little Jetstream. What was it? It wasn't a Jetstream. It was a little British Airways thing. The engine sounded, very, very underpowered or something. I've got to remember what that is. They've retired a couple of airplanes, but one of the things they've done is they've held on to their Twin Otters, and they've actually enhanced it with some advanced avionics. And I think they also completely swapped out the engines now. And so the engines here have been swapped out too. So this is what they fly to several islands here in the Caribbean. And one of the reasons we have all sorts of fun on this particular flight is so that we can all be pilots of the Caribbean. Okay, and you knew that that was going to be, there would be jokes like that, right? So what are we going to do today? This is what we call the famous brew run. I'm changing the words around just a little bit over here on YouTube. But this started a long time ago over on the Spy Flight, and we go and we basically fly to 3 destinations here. The story from way back is we were all at the Sunset Burger Bar, and the bartender comes over and says, "You guys are pilots, right?" "Yeah." "We need you to go over to our warehouse at St. Bart's and pick up some more brew because we're running out." Says, "Oh, okay, sure." Well, so that's sort of the completely ridiculous story about how all this started. But what we're going to do is take off from Princess Juliana Airport. We fly over and land at St. Bart's. But then we find out that they're having a really great barbecue over at, I always pronounce it wrong. I pronounce it Saba. Some people have told me it's Saba. Several other things. I apologize for Americanizing it, but I call it Saba until somebody drills it into my head. So then we hear that there's this great barbecue over, so we say, well, on the way back to Juliana, let's stop over here and get some burgers, and then we'll go back. So that's sort of the silly little story. And over the years, what we call the brew run over on Twitch has kind of gained in popularity as far as a group flight. So here's what it takes to do the Spy Flight over to St. Bart's and back. And so what we're going to do is follow this. It's very short. So it's 17 miles over to St. Bart's, over to the barbecue. It's 27 miles, and then it's 24 miles back. Okay, So our flight plan for today, St. Martin, St. Barth, Saba, and back. We're taking off runway 10, and we fly heading of 133 degrees, 249, and 030. This is all visual, okay? We're going to be cruising at 1,500 feet. This can take about an hour because we're only going about 68 miles. As I said, this is all VFR, no nav aids, very short runways. And okay, if you want, you could use the St. Martin VOR, which is 113.0, but I don't usually use it. As I mentioned, I'm using the Aerosoft Twin Otter. You could also use the Islander, which is really going to be the next airplane that I'm going to be picking up. Add-ons that I'm using today, I'm using SkyVector, SimBrief and SimToolkit Pro. No, not so much on this flight. Navigraph charts and data. You could go ahead and use a couple of Navigraph charts and data, and I actually think that maybe if you're just starting out, you could go and take this flight plan and put it in there. So I'll go down here and grab the one that I usually do, and here's our first few spots. The hard part here is the visual for the runway. Might help if I actually put it up on the screen for you. So the visual for the runway here over at St. Bart's here. So this is the one where you actually come over the hill and do the very, very steep landing. There's lots of videos over on YouTube of pilots that didn't do quite a really good job of that landing. Anyhow, one of the things that I use for this flight is, to be honest, rocks out in the water. Rocks. This is all VFR, and these are great VFR landmarks. For example, in the Payware scenery, this little spot here, Sugarloaf, is actually marked with a big old rock out in the middle of the water for us. So this kind of helps us set up for the approach to runway 10. The runways themselves are not very long. So this one is 2,119 feet. As far as charts for the second airport, not here in Navigraph. Nope. Don't even have charts for that one. So I'll give you a couple of the hints that I have for being able to set up and do your landing over on these runways. So what should you do? We are flying for Windward Airlines. This is a real world airline. We're going to real Windward airline destinations. This is my flow for starting up the Twin Otter. And again, I am using the Payware for Princess Juliana Airport. If this is the first time you've ever seen one of these videos, I think the thing to do is, if you've got time, hit pause on the video, load up either the Islander or the Twin Otter, and fly along with me. That way you can watch the buttons and kind of get a feel for what it is that I'm doing, and maybe that'll help you with your flight. The other really nice thing about YouTube is you can pause and restart the video rewind it a little bit if I did something a little bit too fast, so you can see it again. This is the point where I always say, after you do this flight with me, go back home and do your own hometown airport. In this case, go back and do this flight once or twice by yourself, because unless you're lucky enough to have your hometown airport be St. Bart's or something like that, but that's sort of the way that works. Are you ready? All right, flying time. Finally, the best part of Flight Sim. So here we are. We've done our little walk around here. So let's go into the airplane. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to remove the control yoke. And the control yoke is right down here. Go ahead, and once you start to move your controls, this is the time to do a control check. And the reason I'm doing it right now is just to make sure that all the USB connectors and stuff on my setup here are connected to the sim and they're working. That's an important safety tip. Now, one thing that there is here is the airplane does have a yaw damper, and there is the trim control right here. I do have the up and down control. I do have that set up over on my stick. I don't have the aileron and rudder control, and I haven't been engaging the yaw damper. So these are such short flights that I really haven't needed them. Now, if you're going to do some longer flights in it, I'd probably go and set those up. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the base of this, and that's just going to get it out of the way. Okay? So we look down here, everything's looking good. I am flying real weather, and because this is all VFR, you could listen to the ATIS if you want to. I'm going to hit the B button. Okay, hit the B button, and what that did is it sets your altimeter. So the altimeter is set. First things first, we're going to go ahead and turn power on the airplane. And the way that I usually do it is just turn on the battery, and that's up here. Now, if you have external power, you could go up here and click this up. You notice how there is an arrow. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little down arrow, and if you move it up, it becomes an up arrow. So this is one of those two-way switches. I just turn on the battery. So battery is on, and then off to the side here, you can see it says DC Master here. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the DC Master. This is a noisy airplane, okay? Oh my gosh, the DC Master has come to life. Now let's come on up here to the upper panel. I'm going to turn on my position lights and my no smoking light. And if you go into the cabin here, we got a nice little cabin, and you can see my no smoking light is up. There is no lavatory, no galley. They don't serve coffee and drinks on this flight. But my suspicion is sometimes the weather, particularly in the islands, it gets a little bumpy. So I imagine they have to replenish the Barth bags and stuff in a flight like this. Not a lot of people, probably are prepared. Okay, so we've gone and I've set the altimeter. The only other thing that I usually set is I set an altitude here in the autopilot of 1,500 feet. That's all I'm going to do. We'll come down here. Let's go ahead and turn the transponder to standby. VFR, I'm going to squawk 1,200. And we're all set and ready to go. And all these radio things, navigation things, you can set them if you want. But hey, we are pilots of the Caribbean, so matey, we're going to fly like, pirates. Okay, I'll stop. Let's go ahead and do seatbelts, get our passenger seatbelts. Let's also turn on the anti-collision light. And we're going to come down here, and there's a couple of switches that we need to flip. And it's the aft and forward fuel boost pumps. So we're going to turn on the booster pumps here, and right above them is the gas generation RPM indicators. This indicator right here is this is when we're going to turn on the fuel. And so you see 10, 11, 12. So 12% gas generation RPM is when you introduce fuel when you start the engines. And now it is engine starting time here. So to do that, we come up here and see the starter here. We've got now you see the pointer, it's pointed off to the left. Now it's pointed off to the right. We're going to start the engines, and remember, it's going to get noisy here, but it'll get a little quieter in a second. Ready? Starting engine number 2, the right engine. Oh my gosh, loud. So come on over here, and there goes that gas generation. 10, 11, 12, look up here, and do fuel. Oops, I forgot to put my props into feather. I forgot to feather my props. Whoops. Okay, there's our first mistake. But, hey, I don't see smoke coming out of the back of the airplane, so I'm going to guess we can live with that one. Okay, the other thing that I would have suggested that we should have done is we should have tested the throttle levers, make sure that they work. I'm being a bad pilot. But again, hey, I'm a pilot of the Caribbean, so matey. I better stop that before shall we start another engine? All right, let's start engine number 1. So come on over here. Starting engine 1. Look down here. Gas generation goes up. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and fuel. And there goes our second prop going up there. And looking pretty good. All right, so first things that I usually do is I come up here and I look over here at torque pressure, and I'm going to move my throttles. Actually, first, come up here and click the props out of feather. Okay, so we got those out of feather. Now then, I'm going to come over here, and torque pressure, we're going to go ahead and push our throttles forward a little bit here to about 10%, 10 inches, 10, 15 inches. That gets it kind of revved up a little bit there, and then we can come up here and turn on the generators. So now we're not just juicing off the battery, we got generators working for us. I'm also going to turn on my bleed air, and I'm going to turn the temperature control to auto. If we were in an icing zone, this is where we would do the de-icers. That's very important. If you are flying in an ice zone, by the way, and your windshield starts to ice up, the windshield de-icing, windshield heat is right up here. It's kind of hidden, but there's your windshield heater. I had to go looking for that when I was flying this thing out of Sheep Mountain Airport in simulated Alaska once. And so I'm like, okay, where is that thing again? Okay, now that we got the generators done, let's go ahead and roll our throttles back. And then if we look over here, I've got my other set of levers up there. I'm going to put my throttles all the way forward. So that's all the way forward, full props. We're going to go and turn on the pitot tube heaters, and we're going to turn on the taxi light. We're going to look down here. Toe brakes are forward. I'm going to release the parking brake. Now we're going to look right. Okay, there's a truck over there. We're going to look left. There's a guy standing over there. We're just going to go straight on through. How about it? How about we do that? Release the brakes. Add a little bit of power. It doesn't take much, and then your airplane starts rolling. Okay? What about fueling and cargo? Well, the airplane basically has a default fuel level of about half full, and that's more than enough for this. If you want, you could go and generate yourself a really nice load of fuel, or you could just be a pilot of the Caribbean and fly. And here's our taxi line. Now this airplane will start to pick up speed as you taxi out, but you really don't need to. Okay, I've got something kind of weird here. Let's see. There's a little bit of dirt that's starting to get into my twist stick, so if I don't move the controls around a little bit, it starts to do these violent turns on the ground. See, we're picking up speed again, so slow down a bit. Aha, we have a windsock here, and you can see the windsock is pretty much normal here, almost straight out. Wind is almost always straight down the runway here, except during hurricanes and stuff. Now we have 2 takeoff points here. Generally, I would imagine that they take these off probably over here. They don't take you off all the way down here. But I'm going to go all the way down to where the big jets take off, because that's where you can see all of the people standing on the beach. Here's our hold short point. So other steps for takeoff, I usually take off with flaps 10. Your flaps indicator is right here. And then your flap lever that you can click is up here. All right, we're coming on up here. You can see another windsock straight ahead. You can see some beach umbrellas up here. And as we come on around here, you'll see all the people standing on the beach. So this is the famous Maho Beach. One of the things to do is if you're bored, you don't have time for a full flight, but you want to do something, you can go and set up your airplane here and just use the drone cam and go down to Maho Beach and watch and see if any of your friends are flying down in multiplayer. You see some of the people standing over on the other side of the fence? And there's Sunset Bar over there. Shall we go? All right, come on out here. So we're gonna add just a little power. Come on around. Now for takeoff, usually what I do is after takeoff, there's a little bay off to the right of the runway. As soon as we're off the ground, I'm starting to do a gentle turn over that bay. And then I wait till I'm clear of the condos, look for the cruise ship dock, and then look for St. Bart's. That's basically going to be on a course heading of right around 133 degrees. Okay, are we ready to go? Looking good. So we're on a runway. We're going to turn strobes on. We're going to come down here and do landing lights. Landing lights are up. And let's go. So first thing I'll do is I'll look up here, and my throttles, I'm going to push them forward to 30 and then to 41 inches in torque pressure. And that's takeoff. We take off at about 65. Throttles forward. There is about 30. Look at our engines. Are they stable? They are. Let's continue them forward to about 40 inches. That's good. Airspeed's coming up. There's 45, 55, 65, and there's 65. That's rotate. Up, up, and away. See the wheel spinning? Tap your brakes, stop the wheel spinning. Look off to the side. There is the beach. There's our bay. Gentle turn. We're still not going at warp factor 10 here. So we're going to be gentle with this airplane. Small control motions on this one for sure. I'm lowering the nose a little bit. Our airspeed is picked up to beyond the little white arc on the airspeed indicator. Flaps can go up 1, and I'm going to go and reduce my props to 95%. So props are down there to 85%. And there's the condos. Once we clear the condos, because I guess they don't like having propeller airplanes fly over, now we're going to make a gentle turn to the left. And as we turn around, you're going to see St. Bart's up ahead, and so we'll roll out there. And it wasn't 95%, it's 85% on prop RPM. I'm a bad pilot. I didn't turn on my transponder. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm a pilot of the Caribbean. That's going to blow my cover. Okay, there's more condos. Okay, there's 1,000 feet. So now what I'm doing is I'm slowly lowering the nose and working the trim control to trim for about 800 feet per minute on a climb. Look up over here. There is the cruise ship dock. So we're coming to the end of Juliana, St. Martin Island. Okay, we're coming up on 1,500. So I'm going to check my torque pressure. It's at 40 inches. This airplane does want to turn just a little bit to the left, so if I'd go and I would set a little bit of aileron or rudder trim, that would correct that for me. Or, there we go. Okay, there is 1,600. We went a little high, so I'm going to use trim to trim down. I'm going to bring my props down to 75% prop RPM. Okay, we're still climbing, so trim the nose down some more. Way too high. We don't want to descend too fast. Let's get back down to 1,500. So long, cruise ships. Looks like there's also a container ship dock there too. Still climbing, so I'm still adjusting my trim. And you can tell that I'm adjusting my trim because there's a light here that's flashing. See trim motion? If we were over in the MD-11, Betty would be saying stabilizer motion, that sort of deal. Remember, our heading was supposed to be about 133 degrees as we come out. So we're doing about 133 degrees. Still climbing. So again, just little baby trim. And let's see if we can go and get the trim set. You should, if everything's set, we're going to be cruising at about 145 knots. Now, you can see looking out to the water here, my first two little landmarks. See those two things out there? I call those the shipwreck rocks. So those are shipwreck rocks. It's kind of a loud airplane here. So those are shipwreck rocks, and that's sort of my first little spot in the sea. And that usually tells me we're about halfway there. Still a little above 1,500, so I'm continuing to tap the trim down just a bit. Hey, now we're doing pretty good. So just baby taps on the trim knob is all I'm doing here. Okay, now that we're at 1,500, I actually pulled the nose up a bit to stop it. And now we'll try and basically just hold 1,500 and fly over the shipwrecks, rocks. And once you get all trimmed up, it should, like I said, hold us at about 1,500. We will use the autopilot on the second leg, just to kind of help us out a bit. And if we look down there, there's our little shipwreck rocks. Perhaps those are, instead of rocks, those are nice little party beaches or something. Who knows? Now, as we pass the shipwreck rocks, if you look out ahead, you see there's a little spot out there. There is our first rock for the approach coming in. So basically, as we zero in on that rock, again, I'm going to want to hold about 1500 here. There are a couple of videos that I've seen of this particular approach where the pilots seem to be coming in high and just dive down. That's because we got a hill to go over. There's this hill, and it seems to me that the pilots are keeping the end of the runway always in sight. So we are going to come in a little bit high and kind of dive for this thing. I've been meaning to rewatch those videos and see if I can check out their flap settings. Right now for St. Barth's, I do flaps 30. For Saba, I usually do flaps 40 because that runway is even shorter. We're doing really good. So 1500, we're right around 150 knots, a little bit faster. I'm guessing maybe that means we have a little tailwind today. All right, here we are coming up on the rock here, so it's almost time to start doing some landing preparations. Because the weather changes here, I'm going to go ahead and hit my B button and just see if that changes my altimeter any. Now, holding back on the stick, so here's our rock here. I'm going to go ahead and reduce my throttles, but I'm going to hold my altitude because I want to slow the airplane down till we can get into the white arc zone here because we need to start slowing it down for landing. But I'm not going to let us lose altitude yet. So I'm still holding on to 1,500 feet. My airspeed is definitely going down. We're starting to lose a little altitude, pull back a little bit more. And with the rock over there just touching the side of the windshield here, I'm going to start my turn. There's our second rock. And that should line us up for the runway. Okay, we're starting to go down. Here's our white arc and flaps 1. As soon as I go flaps 1, I'm going to go and push a little bit of power forward. And we're going to have to overturn just a little bit. And the hard part about this is where my mouse pointer is, there's the runway. Now we're a little bit off on the runway here, so let's go this way. I think we've got a wind blowing at us from the north here. Our speed's good. Okay, props all the way forward. So I've got levers. My other two levers are set, so my props are forward. Let's do flaps 20. We're still a little bit off here. Let's get back over here, and you can see there's our runway there, and I can still see the runway. I still want to keep the runway in sight for this, over the hill. One of the controls that I have set up is prop reversers on this thing. So you use prop reversers and brakes on this. All right, coming over the hill. Another thing to do as we're coming in, it's hard to see, but there is a windsock here. So that windsock is going to show you, which way the wind is blowing. And sometimes it is really, really windy. Okay, we're getting a little low. I'm going to add some power here. We're getting blown off to the side. I can see the end of the runway. We're going down, still seeing the end of the runway. Now we're getting high. Power's coming down. We're doing a little bit of the dive here. There's the windsock, winds right down the runway. The airplane voice will yell at you the whole time.
50, 40, 30, 10.
Okay, we're floating too much. It always gets cranky with me on this. Sometimes my reversers don't engage. Sometimes they just don't want to engage. There we go. All right, let's turn. I floated a little bit too much. This is an incredibly hard landing to do. and incredibly hard landing to do. There's a famous video of a guy in some twin engine general aviation airplane. The dude floated over 3/4 of the way down the runway, did not go around, jammed on the brakes. You can see the wheels skidding, and the guy went into the beach. So it's sort of like, really? Okay, flaps up to 10 for takeoff. And back we go. So let's see, landing lights should go off. We're about ready to get off the runway, so strobes are gonna go off. And over here, you really can over control this airplane too. I want to turn down sensitivities on this. Interesting thing about this, if you look at the all the flags here, here at St. Bart's, there's all sorts of different countries that are flying official flags here at St. Bart's. Okay, so we got a guy standing out there. I usually just taxi by. So this is the part where we actually have somebody who's come up and you know, loaded all the adult beverages and stuff in the airplane to take back. But then we get our call and say, hey, we've got these really great burgers over at the other airport. Come on over. Okay, we'll do that. So that's our little fictional plan here. So as we come on in, what I'm going to do is we're going to stop. There is runway 10 and the Alpha taxiway. So let's stop over here and we're going to do a few things. All right, so come on down here and parking brakes on. Now, the course heading, remember from our map over here? The course heading over is 249 degrees. So let's go ahead and let's get the bug, and we're going to preset our bug to 249, how about 250 degrees. Now, I usually end up adjusting this down a little bit, but there's 249 degrees based on just, you know, the basic flight here. Eventually, we're going to want to go to the north of the island, and you'll see why when we get a little bit closer. So I've got that little bug all set up there. We've got the altitude set at 1500, and we're going to get some help from the autopilot on this one. I'm going to hit the B button one more time, make sure that we don't have an new altimeter setting, and it is flying time. So parking brakes off. Now what we're going to do is a short field takeoff. I'm going to drop the flaps a notch to flaps 20. Let's add a little bit of power, not much. You kind of want to inch your way out on this runway. So short field takeoff, we're going to stand on the brakes. We're going to run the props all the way up to where they're supposed to be. And then we should be good. Okay, look over here. There's the center of the runway. Start the turn. Okay, there we go. Okay, brakes are on. Landing lights. Did I get my strobes back on? Strobes are, I believe, strobes are on. Do I have strobes flashing? Yes, we're ready to go. All right, so sitting here at the end of the runway, I've got my toe brakes pushed all the way down. So come on over here, and as I mentioned, props are forward. So let's go ahead and push the throttles up to about 30 inches of torque pressure. That's stable. And then we push it all the way forward to about 40 inches, 41. Look outside, props are full. And release the brakes and hunt for the sky. 40 knots. 50 knots. 60 knots. 65, rotate. Off the runway, tap on the brakes. Over the beach, start a turn over the water. Don't want to go over those condos over there. As we turn out, you'll see the cruise ship. So come out over the cruise ship and the fishing boat. We are out of the white arc, so flaps 10. I'm only climbing at about 900 to 1,000 feet per minute on takeoffs here. We're going to come around here and we're going to go right through this little break in the rocks here. Around we go. Definitely out of the white arc area, flaps up. Coming on up here. Landing lights are off. Roll out a little bit here. Look over there. There's the edge of the island. Let's go through this little short area here, and then out to the other airport. Okay, there's 800 feet, and you can see just right over here when we clear the island. There's our next island. So let's start a gentle turn over there. There's our course heading. It's already preset. Passing 1,000 feet. Gentle turns, big rocks, nice beaches. Ah, there we go. Okay, looking good. Let's roll out. And let's look down here. How's our course heading? Pretty good. Let's get some help from the autopilot this time. Engage the autopilot. Heading holds going on. And then slowly release your flight stick. And it should climb you at about 800, 900 feet per minute. By this time, I should have done my props back to, so there is 95, there's 85 is what I usually climb at. I'm also going to go and just make sure I'm at about 40 inches of torque pressure, and out we go. There's 1,500 feet per minute. You can see the heading and the altitude light on the autopilot are both on, so it's holding our altitude and just fine. So we've reached final cruise. I'm going to run my prop RPM down to 75. And that's the bottom of the green zone here for prop RPM. But that's what we got. I'm going to make sure, okay, the torque pressure's a little high. I'm going to pull the throttles back just a little bit. And this means we should be cruising at about 140 knots. We are. And it's just pointing us right on out there. Flaps are up. The only other thing I haven't really done is I forgot to turn off the little taxi light on the nose wheel. And we just get to go and fly on out. So there's St. Bart's, there's the two rocks, and there is our first destination. So coming on back here, we've got the beverages for the brew pub all set up in here. Now we're going to go out and grab burgers. And this one's just sit back and coast with friends. This is the longest segment. This is 27 miles. So that's why I'll go and engage the autopilot on this one. You can see that we're kind of heading a little bit to the north side of the island here. That's where we want to be. And let's just go and cruise for a few. Welcome back. So we cruised for about 5 minutes. So obviously hit pause so you didn't have to sit there and listen to me yammer. But also was running out of morning coffee. Very important. In-flight beverages, extremely important, especially in the morning. We're still doing really good. The autopilot took good care of us. We're cruising right around 140. You see it's kind of moving around, the needle there. So it is moving around like that because it's gusty. The winds out here are kind of gusty, so that is a thing. So what are we going to do now? Well, we're going to continue to hold our course here. I still would like to be a little bit to the north side of the island, or to the right. I want the island to the left here as we come in. Let's kind of tilt up, and we're going to use our binoculars and kind of look up ahead and see what we got. And as you look ahead, you probably can see that we got some cliffs here. Okay, and so there's some cliffs, And then there's this little area off to the side, this little rocky area. Little rocky area is our runway, okay? So at the base of the cliffs is another rock. Yeah, they've got these rocks in the perfect place for us here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go again, we're gonna go to the north of the island here. In fact, let's go ahead and give ourselves another 5 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's go 5 degrees to the right. I want a little bit of breathing room here. We're gonna continue to let the airplane fly along at 140 knots and 1,500 feet per minute. We're gonna do this probably until I really can start to see that rock. I really can't see the rock yet. No sign of the rock. I will tell you that this is a really nicely done airplane. I've always kind of had a thing about the Twin Otter. First of all, it just looks kind of goofy. Goofy little airplane, but it's also a real tough little airplane too. And you can also take this airplane, not just fly it around the Caribbean. You can do bush flying in Alaska with it, and you could fly it into an international airport. Okay, there was an airline called Rocky Mountain Airlines in Colorado years ago, used to fly this thing as commuter service from small airports around Colorado into the old Denver Stapleton Airport. So this thing can also fly around with the big jets too. And so I always thought that, that just makes this an incredibly versatile airplane. I think if I were ever to make enough money selling spy stories and creating content and stuff, and I all of a sudden had money enough to buy a real airplane, I would kind of want one of these for, it's goofy, I know, but it's a goofy little airplane. Okay, we're doing really good. So we're getting way north now of the airport. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and dial this over to about 245 degrees. And let's look over here and see what we can see. Well, look at this. You got to look around here. There is our rock. There's our rock, and there's the runway. So rock, runway. And this one, you literally want to try and fly over that rock. And that's going to help you line up on this runway. I don't know if there's a real rock out there to help real pilots line up like this, but it sure is helpful in flight sim. Okay, I'd like to do another 5 degrees. So I'm going to let the autopilot 5 degrees over. That's not even close to being enough. How about another 5? So I'm just 5 degrees over, 5 degrees over. That's not enough either. There's another. Yep, still not enough. How about 10? All right. I can sort of see my rock there, so now it's time to go ahead and slow down. So throttle's all the way back to about 10 inches. We're going to run our props forward and get our airspeed down to the white arc so we can start rolling out some flaps. So now I'm going to turn over here. There's my runway over there. There's my rock. Airspeed's coming down really nice. Little bit more. There's my rock. Flaps 1. I think we've had enough fun with the. Let's run the flaps down to 20 and throttles back up and autopilot off. Let's start a gentle turn. And at this point, I want to be able to see that rock out my window. We're also going to start to go down a little bit here. So I just tapped my trim wheel down a bit. We're a little bit high at the moment. That's okay. And our cliffs are getting closer and closer. So I'm pulling my throttle back a bit. And we're turning around. There's our rock. And now you can really see if you look over here. So there's the rock, there's the runway. So you almost want to be between the rock and the cliff here. How scary is that? Throttles back even more. I guess we're serious about doing that landing thing, so landing lights can go on. It's going to yell at you about sink rate. We're going too fast. Let's add some power. I'm going to do flaps 30, and we're getting even closer to our cliffs. Too low. Add a little power. Reduce our rate of descent. There's rocks, by the way, at the end of the runway, too. Okay, so there's our runway. Nice little descent here. Ready with your toe brakes. Little fast. You see, we're also getting bounced around a little bit with real weather. If you don't like the real weather, then turn it off for your first few tries. This is supposed to be one of the shortest runways that a commercial airplane lands on in the world. There's runway 12 minimums, you think? Brakes. And the wind just caught us and blew us over too. But look at that, we made our first turn off. How about that? Flaps up. Off the runway. Landing lights. Strobes. And so over here, we'll come on out, just park the airplane, and our buddies are coming out with fresh burgers from the barbecue. And so this is one of the airports. We got a nice little terminal around here. And there's our nice little terminal over there. Oh, I think I'm in reverse. There we go. Let's go around. So here comes our terminal. Let's go, airplane. Little more power. There we go. And we're going to turn over here. And let's just stop right here. Okay. Parking brakes on. Buds are bringing out the burgers. We got some houses here. This is very, very steep where all the houses are. I mean, there's not a lot of beaches on this one, but it's a really cool little airport here. And I think that this airport does come with the payware scenery that you can get for this particular, for Princess Juliana Airport. Okay, so over here, our course heading back is 030. We could also utilize, if we wanted, the St. Martin VOR, which is 113.0. So we could go and do that. So let's go over here. Got to remember which button it is. So let's go and we will do push the CV button, 113.0. And that's just going to give us a basic little DME. Okay, let's make it active. So that's good. Now, the other thing that you could do with this is you could also go and remember the heading for the runway. So the heading for the runway, I've got, here is the VOR Zulu for runway 10. So the runway is 096 degrees, 113.0. So let's dial in 096 over here. So let's dial this over here, 096. So dial this guy over there. This is the yellow arrow. So dial this to 096. And there is 09, 095, 096. Our course heading, do you remember what that was? Course heading back is 030. So let's go over here on this and get our course heading bug. And we're going to dial this over there, and we can use the autopilot on this to help us back too. So this is going to tell us when we're lined up on the runway. This is going to help us hold altitude, and we can go and fly back. We're going to do another short takeoff. 030. Okay, that's good. 030. Shall we go? All right. So clear for takeoff. Parking brakes are off. I'm going to go flaps 20 for takeoff. Out we go onto an active runway. So I like to do strobes for an active runway. We got our burgers. We got the separate beverages for the brew pub. We're in good shape. I would not want to have to pay the fuel bill for this, but there we go. So, got to do a little back taxi on this one. I believe if I remember correctly, the runway also tilts down a little bit. So it also is sloping down this way. You can see a big solar farm over here. Same deal as before, we'll do a short field takeoff. So round we come over here. Look at those big rocks at the end of the runway. If you want, you kind of look over there. There's runway 12. We'll go and get ourselves centered up. And there we go. Centered up pretty good. Okay, just like before. So, parking brake, not parking brakes, toe brakes are all the way up. Come on down here. I'm going to get torque pressure. We're going to go up to 30 inches. And stable. And now to about 40. Prop RPM is all the way forward for takeoff. There's 40. Look outside. Release the brakes. I also do a little bit of pressure, downward pressure on the nose wheel for takeoff. There's 40 knots, 60, 65, and fly. Tap the brakes, off the runway, and we did it. You're gonna get little stall warnings like this too. Gentle turn going out. Oh, look at that, we're already picking up the VOR. So I'm going to drop my nose just a little bit here. Don't want to climb too fast. Gentle turn, flaps 10. We're coming around here. 030. And there's 030. And you can see our airport right ahead. Let's get some help from the autopilot again. So autopilot and heading engage. And it should climb us to 1,500 feet. Okay, we're heading out pretty good. You can see the VOR is showing up. How far away are we? 23 miles out. So that confirms that SkyVector, which said 24, not so shabby. Okay, let's go ahead and props down to 85 for the climb. So 85 for the climb. That's pretty good. We're still at 40 inches over there. And we are now in both heading hold and altitude hold. It captured 5,000 feet. So we're at final cruise. Props go down to 75% prop RPM. And we can kind of come over here. And we're 22 miles out. So just like before, we're going to go ahead. Now, one of the things that I'll do is our heading was supposed to be 030. We want to be a little bit out to the west of the island. We're heading straight for it. So let's go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about 10 degrees to the left? So 020. Let's see if that sets us up a little bit to the west of the island for our landing. And just like before, no reason to sit here and yammer. So we'll just kind of come on over here, look out the window, and enjoy the ride. And after about 5 minutes of cruising, it is almost time for us to start doing that landing thing. This is a really nicely designed airplane. By the way, the things you can do, you can also come in here. You can fly it as a jump plane. This door will open. I think I have to look at it from the other side here. So this door you can actually open. I think there's a click zone somewhere in here. I don't remember where. But you can actually open the doors. You can kind of look around and just, you know, airplane geek around the airplane, which I think is a really fun thing to do. That's some of these airplanes are really good for that sort of thing. All right, how we doing here? Over on the Navigraph chart, you can see we're approaching the 10 DME, the 10-mile DME arc. There's Yaluba. If you've done the approach in here to Juliana, you know this is a major waypoint coming on in. So we're going to come on in here. Minimums are 500 feet, so that's not bad. And at De Beer, I guess, I don't know, it's 1,600. We're at 1,500, so we're basically heading towards De Beer. We're really fairly close to where we're supposed to be on the approach. So maybe to get there, how about another 5 degrees to the right? And that's going to get us right to that point. And we'll be fairly close, fairly close. Everything else is good. The airplane is flying perfectly. Our props are at 75. We don't need to be going as slow on this approach. Okay. So airspeed's a little different here. I think we've got some winds kind of right in our face. 8 miles out. So we are getting pretty close. So, you know, over on Twitch, there's things that viewers can do. They can say posture check and hydrate and stuff like that. Seriously, in airplanes, posture check, make sure that you can put your feet on the rudder pedals. You're facing straight ahead. You can get to your controls. It's kind of a thing. We are 7 miles from the VOR. Now then, the thing that I'll do is I kind of look over here, and pretty much the runway, see this post right here in your throttle levers? That's right where the runway is. And on this approach in this airplane, that little post right there is right in the middle of everything. So you can slide off to the side and look. And if you look over here, there is the hotel area, there's Maho Beach, and the runway is basically there. Now you can also set up all sorts of nav aids on this one too. We do have the VOR set up, so it's going to start moving as we go over the 096 degree radial. Now this is not an ILS, this is a VOR approach, so it's not as high precision as an ILS or anything like that. Okay, look out over there, there's Maho Beach, there's the runway, so we're doing pretty good. I'm kind of looking down here to see if the VOR is going to start to move. And it's probably going to move relatively quickly when it does start. So what we'll do is we're getting in a little bit closer here. No sign of that VOR moving yet. The plan here is as soon as it starts to move, we're going to turn off the autopilot and fly the airplane. This is an incredibly fun thing. Oh, there it goes, it's moving. Autopilot off. And let's start our turn. I'm also going to go ahead and start to roll my throttles back a little bit and pick up and start losing a little airspeed. And turning a little bit too steep. But there's our runway, so we did kind of roll out pretty good. So speed's coming down a bit. And we'll just fly towards that. I was about to say, this is an incredibly fun thing to do with friends. So one of the powers of Microsoft Flight Simulator is, to be honest, multiplayer. A way to fly with your friends and have fun. It really is a good time. So this kind of a flight plan is a great thing to do. You get to watch your friends land at tough airports. You get to do that too. You could also go ahead and do this on VATSIM. I think there's some VATSIM events that are they're starting to put together around going and hitting all the little airports. So I think there's a poker run kind of a thing that they're doing. So, all right, my props are going forward. We're close to flaps 1 speed, so we're going to roll those out. We're a little bit low, so let's trim off that descent a bit. Might have to add a little bit of power here. This thing really does fly like a brick. It really does become a brick. And then you can look out. One of the other cool things that Microsoft Flight Simulator models is the wind's effect on water. And so if it were really stormy, you would look down there and you would see big white caps and stuff. The water also moves in the direction of the wind, which is pretty awesome. Okay, we're a little bit off our VOR, so let's come over here. We're a little bit high and fast. That seems to be the story of my life. At least in Flight Simulator, nothing else. We have been doing this flight about once every 2 weeks. So come on over and join us if you'd like to. We fly you this usually in multiplayer. You do not have to be a great pilot. We don't sit there and laugh at you, because learning how to fly these airplanes is not easy. I still screw up all the time, so it happens. That's the beauty of Flight Sim. Okay, starting to see all the people on the beach there. Little bit low, little too slow. So it wants me to do another notch of flaps. I generally only do flaps 10 coming in here. There are people on the beach, still got blown off to the side. Let's get back over here. And down we come.
20 flaps. 10. Too low flaps.
A little off to the side. And off the runway. And there is our little triangle there. Come on up here off the runway. Strobes going off. There's a ground crew waiting for us. A quick tour over here. So if you want to start flying some of these little flights, Windward Airlines is down over at this end of the airport. They've got their own little parking lot and stuff. You can see another Twin Otter over there. And like I said, one of the other airplanes that Windward is flying is the Islander. And that's the next airplane on my list of airplanes to learn. Looks like it's mostly otters over there. They've got some baggage carts. Now, if you really want to try your hand at this, so come on in here. Now then, here we go. So you see that little loop-de-loop there at Charlie 1? I'm never really very good at this. So there's Charlie 1. To add a little prop to get this thing around. You may also want to stomp on the right brake here. So I'm doing my left engine. And sometimes it gets a little stuck. That's pretty close. And there we are. So come on down here. Parking brakes are down there. There's our parking brakes. Make sure you got that one in there. To power this thing down, props all the way down. Throttles should be all the way back. Landing lights are off. So look down here, and we're gonna look and see. Okay, there's the props down, so now we're gonna feather them. And that's over here, so you actually have to click to get them out of the variable prop zone. And so click that there. You can see the prop RPM is coming down. And it usually stops, I think, around 10% or so at feather. And then at that point, you can come over here and do fuel. At that point, we're going to disengage the generators. We'll do the bleeds. We'll turn off that little guy there. Pitot tube heat goes off. Seat belts and anti-collision lights. And we are parked. So we made it. Oh, somebody forgot to turn off his landing lights, I guess. I think I had my landing lights on. And that's at this point just draining the battery. So at this point, we're going to turn the airplane off, position and no smoking. Then we'll come down here and we need to turn off the DC master. And then you can come and turn off the battery. And now we're not just draining power. And we made it. How about that? That is what we call the brew run over on Twitch. It's just a simple little triangle, real airports that Windward Airlines flies, and it's kind of a good time. At least, you know, sim pilots that I fly with think so. Hope you could join us for this too. As always, when it comes to these videos, it's never about the right way versus the wrong way. This is about how it is that I, as a small private pilot in the world of flight sim, fly very complex airplanes and am able to get my airplane to go up in the air, down on the ground, and not lose too much of my dignity. This is what works for me, and I hope some of it works for you. I'm still new here on YouTube, so I'm reading all the questions in the comments and can't wait to hear what you have to say about this flight. I also hope that you'll consider coming and joining us over on the Twitch Spy Flight. It is a good time. Like I said, we are doing this flight usually about every 2 weeks now because it's just fun. It's just a fun thing to do. I also want to say a big thank you to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon, and also to the people who are subscribing and dropping gift subs over on Twitch. You are the jet fuel in my flight plan. Thank you so much for coming along with me. I hope you are having a great week. I'll see you in a couple of days over on Twitch, and again soon here on YouTube. Cheers.